Hey, Step Back listeners. Want to share your opinions, give feedback, or tell Matt and I what you're thinking? Send us a voice message. Voice messages are an easy way for you to send us audio that might end up in a future episode of the Step Back, a Mavs podcast. They're the latest feature from Anchor, the platform we use to make this podcast. You can send us a voice message right now from wherever you're listening. Just tap the link in our show notes. Matt and I can't wait to hear from you guys.
Hey, this is Dirk Nowitzki, and you're listening to the Mavs Step Back podcast.
I like this, TK. I like that. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk get the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. Look with the ball, yeah, get nasty. He'll drop 30, don't gotta ask him. Got Chris Stapps, coach at the Adam. I spaz like Dallas, I thought I'm rapping. God, if Luka shoot the ball, you know that it's cash. But my boy still looking to pass. Now he got my boy Chris Stapps, looking like Dirk and Nash in the gap. They just want to ring, want to fit a.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Step Back, a Mavs podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and DallasBasketball.com colleague, Matt Galatzan. Be sure to follow us both on Twitter. You can find me at Dalton_Trigg. You can find Matt at Matt Galatzan. And then you can follow the pod itself. We've got an account set up for the pod. It's at Step Back Mavs. Be sure to send us any messages you have, any questions you may want us to, potentially discuss on the pod. We also have a feature here on Anchor now. You can find it in our pod notes on any platform you're listening on. You can click that link and you can send us voice messages. So definitely be sure to check that out. And like I said, just give us a follow. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe. We appreciate all the support you give us on a weekly basis. So, Matt, how you feeling tonight?
Pretty good, man. A lot of interesting stuff happened out there on NBA Twitter the last couple days, so I'm ready to get into it. Yeah,
and look, before we jump into some of the stuff I know you're talking about, I can't help but mention, we've already talked about the Scout Brian guy enough. But I just saw before we jumped on here, he's back at it again, and this time he's going after Bob Voulgaris and Mark Cuban, and it's not ending well for him.
Man, I haven't even seen that yet. I would have to pull that up.
Yeah, and earlier he got into it with Bomani Jones, and he's getting owned from every which direction. So. Good luck to him if that's the route he wants to take, if that's the way he wants to grow his brand, so to speak. Then to each his own.
Yeah, and here's a bit of advice for everyone out there who's trying to make a name for themselves on Twitter, or just like on the NBA landscape in general. Don't get into it with Mark Cuban because you're gonna lose.
Well, yeah, and I mean, look, my advice would be just. Don't be a dick.
Well, yes, obviously, don't be a dick.
Just be in general, be nice to people. I mean, that's something I've always tried to do. I want to try and treat everybody with respect, and sometimes I'm not perfect. Every now and then I lose it, and I end up, getting into a squabble or something. But for the most part, I mean, just be nice to people. It's a much better way to go about things. It'll decrease your stress level. So.
Yes, no, I concur. I'm not as nice of a person as you are, I don't think, because I tend to lose it a little bit easier than you do, but I generally follow the same mindset as you. I just can't. It's not worth it. The mute button and the block buttons are there for a reason. If you're one of my followers and I haven't interacted with you in some time, there's about a 25 to 50% chance I've muted you if you've been rude to me in the past for some reason. So I would have suggested to Brian the Scout that he had done that, but
and
as it stands, he's digging his own grave.
Well, and for all of our followers listening, I mean, you'd probably agree with this too, but Matt, he can get angry with people on Twitter sometimes, and I understand it because people can be so unreasonable every now and then, but he's not. It's a little bit different in real life versus Twitter, so it's not like you're going around fighting with people in real life.
No, in real life, I'm a lot more easygoing. It's just but nobody tries to argue with me about basketball or Draymond Green in real life. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll jump into talking about some Mavs related stuff because I'm sure everybody's ready to get into it, and we're gonna start with Kemba Walker. Imagine that we've talked so much about Kemba. In the last month, really even before the trade deadline, when all the Dennis Smith Jr., Kemba trade rumors were swirling. So we've been talking about him quite a bit on the step back, and it's going to continue, well into probably the first week of July. So right now, Matt, the one thing that I wanted to talk about, and, I just read the article. It was from the Charlotte Observer. And hold on. I'm going to have to edit that out because it wouldn't pull up. It was from the Charlotte Observer. Scott Fowler wrote it. And this is what he said. Should the Charlotte Hornets give their all-star point guard Kemba Walker the Supermax deal he is eligible for? As much as I hate to say it, because I love watching him play, no, they shouldn't. And here's why. And, he goes into much more detail in that article. But, I mean, it's basically what we've been talking about since he became Supermax eligible. Everybody's quick to say, okay, there's no way he's going to turn down that money. And, yeah, I mean, it would be hard for him to do that if he's even offered that money. And, I don't know, Matt. I don't think this is going to be as easy of a decision for the Hornets as some people might think. I mean, I've said it for a while now. I think they're in a pickle. I think they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. But ultimately, I see Kemba leaving. And I don't see Charlotte offering him that Supermax contract. And even if they offer him more than the regular max, I don't think it's going to be that much more than that. I mean, their team just has very little ways to significantly improve as it is with some of the contracts they have on their payroll. So I just don't think they're going to commit that much money to Kemba. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's two ways you can look at this. If you're Charlotte, really. One is he's the best player we've ever had. He's been nothing but loyal, and he's been on really shitty contracts and not complained about it through his first 8 years in the NBA, however long he's been in the NBA. I don't know exactly, 7 or 8 years, whatever. So we owe him compensation. He's been underpaid. He's been upstanding, and his character and his effort, and he's done everything right. And if we don't reward him with the Supermax, then why would anybody ever want to come to Charlotte? Because if we don't pay the best player in the history of our franchise, the money that he deserves, then, what's the point? On the other hand, Charlotte also has to look at it like, well, one of the reasons we're so bad is because we don't have any players around Kemba, and we've made bad financial decisions. So we can't go in and give Kemba $221 million and realistically rebuild the roster to you know, to competing levels. Like, I mean, think about how many bad moves they made. Like, they gave, oh God, what's the guy's name for Batum? They gave Nicholas Batum a max contract. Like, think about that. That's the kind of stuff that kills your franchise.
Yeah, and the thing with Batum is that kind of contract, if you're going to get off of that, you're probably going to have to attach a significant draft pick to it as well. And, you know, the Hornets, they're just kind of in this limbo state where they're not extremely bad, but, you know, they're not good either. They're not good enough to make the playoffs. And, you know, I have to see do you know off the top of your head what pick they have? Is it like 12th, 11th?
I'm looking it up right now as we speak.
Okay, well,
it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it just depends on the team, you know, making the trade, what they're looking for, but I don't think that high of a lottery pick would be worth taking on Batum.
Number 12.
12? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, see, like, I just, you know, not with this year's draft class. But I don't know. Like I said, maybe there is a team out there that can do it. But the point is, it's not going to be easy for that team to improve. And from what we've heard Kemba say, or what we've looked at, you know, what he said throughout the season, what he said in preseason, I know he just recently said that he loves Charlotte and he'd like to stay, and, you know, supposedly that 5th year means a lot to him and everything. But, you know, I mean, that really, what is that really telling us, though? Because, I mean, if you look at every single thing he said leading up to this, he has said that he wants to win in Charlotte. You know, he doesn't just want to stay in Charlotte. He doesn't just want to get paid. He wants to win. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, with Charlotte's lack of being able to, make the right moves to turn that team into a winner around Kemba, I think ultimately he ends up going to a new situation. And to me, you know, just looking at the rest of the free agency landscape and what could happen and everything, I think before it's said and done, if he doesn't go to Charlotte, I really believe he's coming to Dallas. And, you know, that's just me, because, I mean, let's say if it comes down to the Mavs and the Knicks, I think that's a no-brainer for Kemba. I mean, you may feel differently about that, but I think it's a no-brainer.
No, I don't feel differently. And I just want to, for a second, go back to, you know, making Charlotte better. They're in such a, one of the reasons they're in such a crunch is obviously, like we talked about, they had bad contracts. Well, I did some math before, or while you were talking, and they have 56.34% of their cap space tied up with 4 players. Those 4 players are Nicholas Batum, Bismack Biyombo, Marvin Williams, and Cody Zeller.
Yeah, that's not good. Michael Jordan, you know, his on-court greatness has not transferred over to the general manager side of things. I mean, it's really bad.
No, it hasn't. And Michael Kid Gilchrist is another 10.67%. So, like, it really doesn't make sense for either party to stay there. And I think part of the reason that he's saying all these things is because he doesn't have any ill will towards Charlotte. Charlotte's been good to him in terms of, like, the fans, and, you know, he's risen to all-star levels and stuff. You know, not through any help of the actual organization, but, like, from a public media standpoint, he's just trying to say all the right things.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. So when it comes down to it and he's actually looking at free agency, obviously it's going to be tough for him if they do offer him the Supermax to turn that down, because it's $80 million difference. But also, Charlotte, like I just mentioned, is known for giving dumb contracts. So who knows what's going to actually happen?
Well, but I mean, at this point though, where Charlotte's at, and what's sitting before them, because they've never given out a supermax contract. This is a relatively new thing, and I mean, really, it's uncharted territory because, I think this is the first time that a guy like Kemba on a team that's, not in the playoffs consistently. I think he's been like maybe twice in his career. So I think this is the first time so far that you've had a guy become supermax eligible, that hasn't had a lot of playoff success. So, I mean, it's going to be really tough for the organization. I think it's going to end up being a mutual split. I think he will leave, but I don't think there's going to be any ill will, and I know he doesn't want that. Charlotte doesn't want that, but in the end, I think that they'll, kind of agree that it's best for that both parties move on. And I mean, I like I said, I have this feeling that that's going to be really, really good for the Mavs, because I don't see, out of the other, reported teams that have interest in Kemba and, that are going to pursue Kemba, I just don't see how he's going to choose, the Lakers or the Knicks over the Mavs. I mean, unless it's like LeBron going to Los Angeles and he's just going for Hollywood, or he wants to go to New York for New York. If for basketball reasons, if he wants to win and he wants to win, quickly, he will choose Dallas over those other destinations.
No, yeah, I agree with that idea. It makes more basketball sense for him to go to Dallas. It makes more financial sense for him to go to Dallas because, no state income tax. And, obviously Jeff Schwartz, Mavericks, best friends. That helps too. I don't see what... Okay, Kevin Durant might go to New York. I still don't understand why he would want to go to New York after all the bitching and moaning he's done about the media in Golden State, and you want to go to New York? Like, all right, buddy, come on. Like, if he goes there, maybe that's the kind of thing that could sway Kemba. Like, the best player, or arguably the best player in basketball, is going to be there. Maybe that's a sign. Maybe they're starting to turn stuff around. I don't know. But barring that, that's the only reason I could see for him having any desire to go to New York. Los Angeles, why would you want to go to that shit show? There's no. I don't care about LeBron. He's 34 or 33, whatever he is. Like, he's getting up there. How much longer, is he realistically going to be around playing at this level? Not very long. And they've got everything going on with Magic Johnson and Jeannie Buss and all that crap over there with, like, Kuzma and Lonzo and Big Baller Brand and all that stuff. It's just a mess. So if you want to avoid a mess, I mean, I know the Mavericks obviously have had their problems, but it hasn't been on the basketball court. It hasn't been with the actual, running of the basketball organization itself and the basketball operations. It's all other stuff, which is still bad stuff, but it hasn't affected the basketball product. Everything going on in New York and Los Angeles is affecting the basketball product.
Yeah.
And if Kemba wants to avoid that kind of stuff, then it has to be Dallas.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I think the Knicks, I think that fan base is probably going to end up being the most disappointed that they've been in a while. And I know that's probably saying a lot because the Knicks have had a lot of disappointment over the years, but it seems like Stephen A. Smith said earlier today, and I've seen some other people like Rick Bucher, and those people have said that Kyrie Irving has eliminated the Knicks from his his group of teams he's considering to join. It's supposedly the Lakers and the Nets, and then Stephen A. said today that he's given every indication that he's going to the Nets. So, I mean,
okay,
we take that. Hold on. I know what you're about to say. You have to take it with a grain of salt because, I mean, we haven't actually heard anything from Kyrie and all that. I get that. I'm just saying I really believe he's not going to New York. And, you know, I don't know if you saw what happened the other day. You know, supposedly Kawhi Leonard has bought property in Toronto. So, you know, if he ends up staying in Toronto, who's to say Kevin Durant can't go to the Clippers with that team that's, you know, set up nicely with young pieces, young supporting pieces. You know, he's still in Los Angeles, but, you know, it's not like you know, it's more like an underdog role. You know, he can go there and prove that he's the best player in the world by trying to bring the Clippers a championship. So, I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios that could happen this summer, but I think New York is going to end up being, you know, pretty disappointed.
No, yeah, I don't have any faith ever that the Knicks are gonna make any kind of moves or get any kind of luck that make them a better franchise. I mean, think about that, just that one draft. They passed up on Donovan Mitchell, and they got Dennis Smith Jr. and Frank Ntilikina, Frankie Smokes. Like, and then in the process of acquiring both of those players, they now lost their best player of the last decade, and Kristaps Porzingis. It's an absolute mess.
Who they booed when he got drafted.
Yeah, Zingus Dingus. Like, give me a fucking break. There's no reason anybody wants to go play for them, ever. Like, them not getting the number one pick was pure karma. I totally believe that. 100%. But as far as Los Angeles goes, I don't really care what Stephen A. Smith says about Kyrie. I don't think he knows these players as well as he likes to make people think he does. But I do believe that the Knicks were never really a consideration for Kyrie. I mean, maybe they were a little bit at some point, but I think the Nets are far more likely a destination. And I think the Lakers are a far more likely destination because he does seem like a Hollywood-type guy.
Yeah.
And if like you said, if Kevin Durant goes to the Clippers, then, you know, he's best friends with Kyrie. Maybe Kyrie goes to the Lakers, and then they can still be, you know, best buds running around L.A. together, but they don't have to necessarily be on the same team.
Yeah.
And another thing is, you know, an interesting wrinkle that him going to the Nets is it, you know, that could potentially free up D'Angelo Russell. I mean, I know I've heard the reports say that, you know, they could see them playing in a backcourt together.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I don't know where that's coming from. That's a lot of usage.
Yeah, I don't see that working.
So I think that if Kyrie goes to the Nets, it's going to end up freeing up D'Angelo Russell to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Which, you know, would be very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, look, that's where I was going to lead with this because, you know, obviously Fish, be on the lookout for his recent scoop for DallasBasketball.com, but, you know, just in short, the Mavs, they like D'Angelo Russell. You know, they like the improvement, the growth that he's shown over the years, but they don't plan to make any bids on him. And you know, like I said, I'm just speculating here. I haven't looked to see what Fish is going to be putting out here in the near future. But if I had to guess, it's more so about him being a restricted free agent than anything else. I think, like we've talked about in the past, I think that you know, the unrestricted free agency list has so much talent, so many good players that they can go after immediately that I don't think the Mavs are willing to waste time with the restricted free agents. And I know that you know, Kyrie going to Brooklyn, that could affect that and, you know, make that process shorter. But we have no idea when Kyrie's going to make that decision. So, You could.
That's a lot of dominoes that you have to wait to fall.
Yeah.
It's not really worth D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah. So I mean that's my guess on why the Mavs won't make a bid on Russell, and obviously Kemba is going to be, their first priority there as far as point guards go, and then after that, I mean you probably go to Patrick Beverley, or you try to make a play for Dragic. So that's what I'm thinking there. I don't. What are your thoughts on Russell, and why do you think the Mavs aren't going to make a bid?
Well, I think schematically from a basketball standpoint, I don't think D'Angelo Russell is a bad idea. Like if you weigh him against Kemba Walker just on basketball alone, it's pretty close in terms of production and all of that stuff.
I personally don't think it's close right now, but I can see the potential with Russell. I mean, I do think the fit is very good, and I think he fits the timeline a lot better. But I'm still giving Kemba the edge there.
Okay, well the numbers are close if you look at them, and if you're talking about long-term upside and those types of things and age and all that, D'Angelo obviously has that. But also Kemba has done it over a longer period of time, and this is D'Angelo's kind of breakout year, so you don't necessarily know whether it's a flash in the pan year or
could be a fluke.
Something, or it could be a fluke or it could be sustainable. We don't know. With Kemba, you just feel a little bit more secure in terms of what you're going to get. Whereas over in the D'Angelo Russell side of things, I do think he's extremely talented and has a chance to be much, much better than he is right now and a better player than Kemba. But if you're looking at it right now for who you're offering a max contract to, it's you kind of have to, if you're choosing one, you kind of have to choose Kemba just because of the security. And if you look at D'Angelo Russell and you see the people that he's hanging out with calling his mentors, for those reasons, I'm out.
Yeah, and look, I know you saw this, but recently I went on Chew On Sports. They have a podcast. I retweeted it, so if you want to check out that, just go to my timeline and scroll down a little bit. It's on there, but we talked about that same exact thing, and I was just like, that right there would be one of the main reasons I'm out, and I'm sure the Mavs wouldn't say that too, but I mean, you see him calling D Wade and Carmelo Anthony role models, and it's just like, I don't know, man.
Dude, those are not role models. Those are prima donna pieces of crap.
I mean, role model. It just depends on what he's looking at for role models. I mean, does he want to improve his banana boat pictures, or like what exactly is he looking for?
Looking for people who have long careers for being aggressively average,
flopping,
and never doing anything on their own, and
being
still
a
making
ball hog,
of money.
Man, let's just
like
roast these dudes.
Well, if honestly, if you want to learn to be Carmelo Anthony, just shoot the ball every time you get it.
Yeah.
Like, how is Carmelo Anthony a good role model? He's been nothing but trouble everywhere he's gone.
Well, and look, we can say all this about, maybe their personalities or the way they play and this and that, but, I mean, yeah, I got to hand it to Carmelo. He knew what he wanted, and he went and got it in his career, and that was securing the bag. He wanted the money, and he got the money, and that he was very clear that that's pretty much all he cared about. And I'm sure when he was in Denver and everything, and then for a brief time in New York, when they were decent, when they had Tyson winning Defensive Player of the Year and everything, but for the most part, the end of his career has been kind of sad. But
I don't feel bad for him.
but
what is there to feel bad for him? Like,
I don't feel bad for him. I'm just saying
he still got the he still got the bag. You know, it's his fault that he was so stuck in his ways that he didn't want to change the way he played, and that's what drove him out of the league. I mean, it's all his fault.
Yeah. Well, look, we won't get too far into that. We could.
But also, hold on. Did you see who liked that picture?
No.
Des Bryant.
Okay. Well, I mean that. I mean that. I mean that kind of fits too, right? I mean
yeah.
he probably considers them role models as well. So, but
yeah. All right. Well,
I love Des. I love Des. Throw up the X always. Okay.
I do too. I'm just saying. It's only because he was a Cowboy for years.
Yeah. But anyway, so that we kind of got a little bit off track there, but basically, you guys just keep looking out for that D-Lo piece from Fish, and we got some new stuff on Dwight Powell coming up. As it turns out, the Fish report from 2 weeks ago was right.
Shocking.
Shocking.
I'm so shocked.
So the Yahoo report that Dwight Powell had opted out, that's not true. So there's more stuff coming out on that as well. So when we come back, we have a special voice message to play you guys before we get into the rest of this podcast. So I think you're going to like it. It's pretty great. So hang with us. We'll be right back after this break. Hey Mavs fans, if you're listening to this, you obviously like podcasts, and you probably like music too. On Spotify, you can listen to all of that in one place for free, and you don't need a premium account. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one that you're listening to now. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. You can download episodes to listen offline wherever you are, and you can easily share what you're listening to with your friends via Spotify's integrations with social media platforms like Instagram. Just search for The Step Back, a Mavs podcast on the Spotify app, or browse podcasts in the Your Library tab, and follow us so you never miss an episode of The Step Back, a Mavs podcast. Spotify is the world's leading music streaming service, and now it can be your go-to for podcasts too. All right, guys. I know for you guys who listen through the ads, I don't know how many of you actually do that, but you've probably heard by now that Anchor has this new feature called voice messages, and we got one this past week that we thought was it was perfect, and we're going to play it for you now and see what you think. So here we go.
Hello there. The name is Hank Hill. I sell propane and propane accessories. I also listen to the Step Back podcast with Dalton and Matt. I love the Mavericks almost as much as I love propane, and I hate the Spurs just as much as I hate charcoal. Having said this, Dalton and Matt, I listen to every podcast you publish. Oh, Bobby, I'm recording a message right now. Please do not. Sorry about that. I don't think I can delete it, but I really enjoy listening, and I hope that this ends up on one of your future podcasts. And I just want to say I'm a big fan, and go Mavericks. I'm a propane fan for life and a Mavericks fan for life.
All right, Matt, what do you think about that? Hank Hill. We get a voice message from Mavs fan for life, Hank Hill. What are the chances of that?
I mean, I was crying when I heard it. It was so funny.
That was perfect, man.
It was that. I mean, that was our first voice message, and I could not have imagined a better first one. So
right, and look, that's if you know him on Twitter as Tyler Adams with a T, ATOMS. It's Adams, but that's how he spells his Twitter ad on there. But yeah, that was the fine work of Tyler Adams. So Tyler, we appreciate that. I'm sure our listeners got a little bit of humor out of that as well. So the rest of y'all listening, if you ever have anything you want to send us, if you want to ask a question, just tell us how we're doing. Maybe you just want to do like Tyler. Maybe you have some impressions that you want to send and have us included in some of these future pods. Just be sure to do that. But we wanted to play that for you guys and just show you what it was like. So we'll move on from here. Matt, I know we had a couple different potential draft night trades we wanted to talk about. I'll let you take the floor here. I know you wanted to talk about that recent Phoenix report. So let's start off with that.
Well, it was reported recently that Phoenix was looking to ship the number 6 pick in this year's draft to acquire a veteran point guard. I can't. Do you remember who was first to report that? I think was it Shams?
I think it was Shams.
Anyway, so that immediately got me thinking, because every time one of these trade proposals or comes up on the Twitter sphere, I always jump right into it. It's like, okay, how can the Mavs get involved?
The same way. That was Shams, by the way. I just checked.
Yeah, that's what we do. So, I got to thinking, who are some teams that maybe have a star player that's down on their luck, that's like on the playoff boundaries, and maybe either just got in or they're not, they were just on the outside and they're looking to kind of restructure things.
Yeah.
But also, and then they have also a veteran point guard and all this stuff and whatever. So what I came up with was involving the Suns, the Mavs, and the Pistons. And at first, like when I proposed this trade to you, we kind of laughed about it. We were like, ha 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 ha. But then another tweet came out later.
Is that how you really laugh, by the way? You laugh like Kawhi Leonard?
Yes.
I love it. Okay.
But yeah, so and then another tweet later came out by another reporter who mentioned Reggie Jackson alongside a couple other guys. So we were like, oh, maybe this actually has some legitimacy, that Reggie Jackson could be the kind of guy that they're looking for. Because there's not a lot of scorers on that team. They have versus Mavs All-Star T.J. Warren. Obviously, they have Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. But like they need ball handling, they need scoring, and maybe Reggie Jackson could use a change of scenery. Maybe he'd be better in the desert than in the Motor City. Who knows? Well,
and see, go ahead. Finish your thought on that, and then I do have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's not necessarily a perfect fit, but for this purpose in my trade, it is. So deal with it.
Well, see, to me, and I don't know. Have you already given? Have you already laid out?
I haven't laid down the structure of the trade yet.
Okay, well, go ahead and lay that out, and then I'll get to that.
Okay, so in this scenario, the Mavericks would ship Courtney Lee, Tim Hardaway Jr. To the Pistons, and they would send their second-round pick, number 37, to the Suns. And then the Suns would send Tyler Johnson and the number 6 pick to the Pistons. And the Mavericks would receive... Oh, and the Pistons would send number 15 back to the Suns. And then the Mavericks would take Blake Griffin, who... at $32 million a year, and he's a great player. He does everything, and he kind of fits exactly what the Mavs do. Now, what this trade does is it gets Reggie Jackson a change of scenery. It helps move the Suns are basically moving back 9 spots, acquiring an extra pick in number 37. So they're acquiring picks so they can add more talent. And they're moving the bad Tyler Johnson contract off the books. And the Pistons are just they're getting the albatross Blake Griffin thing off of the books, so that they can kind of start to rebuild things, and they can start to maybe tank. And as we know, Courtney Lee and Tim Hardaway Jr. are perfect assets if you want to tank. So
well, and see, I don't think you can really call Blake Griffin's contract a albatross. I mean, for them,
It's a lot of money.
I mean, for them and team building and everything, yeah, I can see that. But, he actually, he had an amazing year this year.
No, I agree. With the Mavericks, it's not an albatross. With the Pistons and where they're trying to go and where they're trying to restructure things, it is.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And then the only thing, the more I've thought about this, the more I'm just like, I just don't think the Suns would move down 9 spots from 6 to 15, even if they are getting pick number 37 with it as well, just to add Reggie Jackson. Now, overall, I like that trade. Obviously, if Blake Griffin's coming to the Mavericks, that's going to be awesome. He's a super fit in that front court next to Porzingis and playing with Luka and everything. So it'd be amazing. But I guess if I had to try to justify that trade and say, okay, it can actually happen, it would be for a couple of reasons. The first one is Robert Sarver is still in charge of the Suns pretty much, because they have a new GM and all that, but we know they go through coaches and GMs like every single season. So, really Sarver's in charge, and he's calling all the shots there. So, he's prone to, doing stuff like that. So, maybe I could see that. And then another reason could be, we've talked about how top-heavy this year's draft is. What if they don't see that much difference between, prospects from 6 to 15? Maybe if you're going to get somebody you like at 15 and then add a high second-rounder to that, I don't know. Maybe. We're just spitballing here, and it's probably, like we've talked about in the past, it's probably getting into that pipe dreamy section, but it really just depends. It really just depends on what Phoenix wants to do and what Detroit would want to do. If they want to continue to pay Blake Griffin and, be a fringe playoff team with not much room to grow. It's kind of like Charlotte. They're a little bit better than Charlotte. They're good enough to make the playoffs, but they're still kind of in that situation where there's not many ways they can get better. So if they were to decide to blow it up, I don't know. Maybe the Mavs can luck up and have a nuclear winter type of trade, like Fish likes to call it.
All right. So if you remember back to when we had Richard Stamen on at Mavs Draft on Twitter, he talked about how once you get past a certain point in the early lottery picks, a lot of people feel like the talent difference, like you just said, is pretty much the same from, let's say 6 to 15, or even up into the late first round, early second round. Like, there's not that much of a talent difference. It's just a matter of schematical fit and whatever.
Yes.
So if you look at it that way, the Suns with the number 6 pick, they feel like, look, we're going to pay more money for the 6th pick when we feel like we could get a player who's really, pretty much similar level at number 15, and we're acquiring an early second round pick. Maybe we acquire good role players here, and then if Reggie Jackson doesn't work out, we're off of him in 2 years, and he's an expiring next year, and that could be used as a tool, a trade tool. So they're just kind of beginning the movements of restructuring things to build around Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Now, are there probably better deals out there for them? Sure, but this is just a way for, as we said earlier, a way that the Mavericks could try and get involved in something like this. Are we saying this is, going to happen? No. But it's a way for the Mavs to get involved in an exciting trade that would make them better. And by getting off of the $31 million with Courtney Lee and Tim Hardaway, with those two guys for Blake Griffin, that's only a $1 million difference.
Yeah.
So you're still able to kind of finagle things around and make room for another max contract, which could be Kemba Walker. 2 picks within that kind of range in the same draft. I think that's pretty fair compensation for a weak draft.
Yeah.
Or not a weak draft, but one where once you get past 3 or 4, it's a big drop.
Yeah.
And where you're sitting, like I said, you're basically acquiring more talent with those 2 picks than you would with that 1 pick.
Yeah. And look, while we're still talking about trades, this is one more we'll throw at you guys too. But Matt, we were talking a little bit before we got on here. You know, Shams in that same piece that he was talking about the Suns, potentially trading that number 6 pick to get a veteran point guard. He also mentioned that Oklahoma City, the Thunder, they'd be willing to part with pick number 21 if it means that they're able to, shed some salary. Now, I don't, like Fish was talking with us earlier, I mean, are they just looking to shed the salary that the pick itself would be making? Or are they just trying to, get rid of it? Or, what's the situation here? Like, would they be willing to trade pick number 21 for pick number 37 straight up just to save some money? Similar to what the Mavs tried to do in that Giannis draft that they traded back to save some money, and
we don't talk about that here, Dalton.
Oh, good times. But something like that, is that what they're trying to do, or are they trying to attach a player to it, like Dennis Schroeder, or maybe they want to dump Steven Adams or something? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it depends where they're trying to go. I mean, we know that Dennis Schroeder isn't necessarily a high priority or whatever for the Mavericks.
Yeah, they don't seem to like the guy too much.
I don't know if you went and tried to get Steven Adams, is that really a better idea than, trying to find a way to get Capella? So
yeah,
he's worth more money. He doesn't have as long of a contract, but he's $24 million a year, and his body's kind of already starting to fall apart a little bit. He's only 25, but he plays so hard and so tough that his body's just going to start to break down. So is that really any different than going and getting Capella? So I don't know. I mean, do they trade 21 and I mean, I like what do they? That's what's so confused. I don't subscribe to The Athletic, so I'm not. Maybe they went into more detail on the report and I couldn't read it, but I don't know. Like, without knowing what they want with that pick, like what they're trying to do with it or what they're trying to pair it with to move off of it or whatever, it's kind of hard to say. And I don't necessarily think like, hey, the Mavericks should find a way to go and get that pick, because I don't think that they feel like there's anything within the top, 5 to 30 or 31 or whatever above where they're already sitting at 37 that they feel like they need to make any kind of move or trade any kind of asset to move up and get.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the only thing that I would rather have Capella. Not just because, like you said, I think there's not as much mileage on him as there is Steven Adams, but also that contract is a little bit better, a little more team friendly than what Steven Adams is. So I would rather have Capella, but with the Thunder, I think, like, if they paired the 21st pick with Steven Adams and they wanted to send it to the Mavs, I think the Mavs, I don't think they'd have to just absorb him altogether. I think they could send back pick number 37 and, send back maybe Courtney Lee. Courtney Lee, or, hey, maybe even Tim Hardaway Jr. Who knows?
I'd rather Tim Hardaway.
Yeah, I mean, either way, either one of those scenarios, the Thunder are saving at least $7 million, potentially $12 to $13 million if it's Courtney Lee, and they still get a pick that's an early second rounder as well. So, I mean,
Let me see if that works real quick.
What?
Let's say Courtney Lee. I'm going to put it in the trade machine. Let's say Courtney Lee
It'll
to
work.
the Thunder for Steven Adams.
It's going to work. I mean, the Mavs have the cap space.
Failed.
No, hold on. I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure. Anyway, yeah, I mean, maybe. I know they need shooting. So if they want to, come and try and get a guy like Tim Hardaway, then I think that's great for them. Whatever. It does work. I forgot I had the Suns listed in there. It's when I was messing around Trade Machine earlier, so it does work.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say that doesn't make any sense whatsoever because we definitely have the cap space to make that happen.
I've had the Suns attached to that thing, and I screwed it up. But yes, it does work. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. would make more sense for them because of the lack of offense that they have outside of Paul George and Russell Westbrook. But who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, look,
we've heard complaints about Clint Capella not clogging things up or him not being able to do this or not being able to do that. It's like, well, Steven Adams is less mobile than he is. He's a great defender, a great rebounder, whatever, but he can't get out and guard a power forward, on a switch or whatever, like Capella can.
Yeah.
And Capella doesn't even do it that well, but Steven Adams definitely can't do it. So, what's the if you had to choose between one or the other, then Steven Adams doesn't really make sense. Now, if you try and go get Capella and it doesn't work, and then you want to go after Steven Adams, and that's another thing.
Well, and if you're wanting to go after not just Steven Adams, but if you're trying to jump up 16 spots in the draft to get a player you like too, I mean, that's something to consider as well. Now, given the Mavs' current situation, and we know they're trying to make they're trying to make the winning moves. They want to win now. I don't know if unless it's just a player they know that's going to contribute from day one, and they want to pull the trigger on a trade like that. I don't know if they're going to do something like that for a project. But regardless, these two scenarios we've talked about. Capella and Steven Adams. I think something like that is only going to happen if the Mavs miss out on their top priorities in free agency. So they're just kind of, and then that kind of eliminates the pick thing too, because I mean you're already going to be past the draft, and I don't know. So that's just my thoughts on it. I think it's going to be they're going to just focus on Kemba, then they'll move on to the second tier guys, and then if none of that works, then they'll try and look towards one of those big time trades to kind of salvage the off season. So that's what I'm thinking. And
yeah, I mean that makes sense.
So we won't get too much more into that. Not in this episode, at least. We still have about 3 more weeks until the draft, and then free agency is going to start, and man, that's going to be a fun period. So we got some special guests coming up. One right before the draft, another one a little bit closer to free agency. It's going to be a blast. And Matt, I will see you this weekend at Dirk's celebrity game.
Yeah, potentially. I'm planning on going. It's going to be really hot. And
very hot.
Matt Postins and TJ are already going to be there. So if I decide that DallasBasketball.com doesn't need 5 writers at the Dirk celebrity baseball game, I might sit it out. Who knows? But I'm probably going to go because it's fun and I really enjoy it.
Well, if I thought you were already set up to go. So if you don't go, I understand why. But if it makes you feel any better, I'm not going on credential for this one. I'm just going to go as a fan. I'm going to enjoy myself. The wife and I. This is our first time doing it, and I mean, I think it's going to be a blast.
See, that's my thing. Is I think I would rather I'm credentialed if I want to go. I haven't been yet as a fan.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I wanted to go as a fan, it would be different, and I would enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not that I don't have fun doing it. I think it's great. I mean, my first memory, covering anything remotely Mavericks related was going to Dirk's celebrity baseball game. I mean, I love it. It's just it's kind of a circus. But it'll be fun. If you see me, or if anybody sees me or Dalton out there, just stay to yourself. I don't like talking to weird people, but if you're weird, whatever. It's you.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a fun time. I've heard that they do the firework display afterwards, stuff like that. So it's going to be a really fun night, and I can't wait to get out there and see Dirk and the rest of the guys, and maybe even some of you listeners out here. If you see one of us, feel free to holler at one of us, and
Yes, I'm totally joking. If you see me and you know who I am, come say hi. I will say hi to you back, and I will shake your hand, and I might have a beer with you.
Holla at your boy. But yeah, so I mean, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. We'll look forward to next week and some of the stuff we have coming up as we get closer to the draft and free agency. But Matt, is there anything you want to add before we take off here?
Yeah, I mean, you already mentioned some of the good stuff we have coming out on DB this week. Another thing that I want you guys to keep an eye out for is I'm writing a very, very comprehensive Goran Dragic to the Mavs story.
It's going to be great.
It's I've been working on this thing for a long time. Tyler Upchurch made me a great graphic for it. Putting a lot of work into it.
For all of you Mavs fans / DBZ fans, you're going to absolutely lose it over this Tyler Upchurch graphic. He really hit it out of the park on this one. Yeah, and it's kind of evolved, and it's very cool. I'm really happy with what he did. So, but also read Matt's article too. That's going to be good too.
Well, that's also an important part of it. So that'll be out. I'm hoping Wednesday morning, maybe Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning, depending on stuff. But and then also keep an eye out for our Patreon account. If you feel like donating, every dollar helps us. If not, that's fine too.
Yeah, and but Matt, one more thing before
Dalton wanted to say something about that too.
Yeah. I was gonna say, as of right now. Or up to this point, we hadn't had any kind of incentives for the Patreon account, but I'm currently working with one of my friends from college. He makes T-shirts and everything. We're gonna get some T-shirts together, and we've got some other. If you look at the Step Back Mavs Twitter page, we've got a giveaway going on that involves a Dirk bobblehead. If we get a certain amount of reviews on our Apple Podcast page. So just be on the lookout for all that. We've got some incentives coming for you guys regarding all that stuff, and it should be fun. Yeah, definitely. And just, if you want to check that out, it's www.patreon.com/stepbackmavs. Very easy to find. And then, again, check us out on Twitter at stepbackmavs, at Dalton_Trigg, and at Matt Galatzan. Yep. Well, guys, it's been a fun one. As always, we're going to do our best to keep bringing you the best Mavs content available, whether it's reading or listening. So we'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the weekend and have fun at the celebrity baseball game if you're going to it. But we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Yeah, I swear I give them hope. I say I'm cleaner than the soap. This time of year proves who will really sink afloat for real. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk at the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk at the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. In this game, it's a lot of grit. You know what I'm saying? Proves who has integrity. Late nights, early mornings, but we all want the trophy at the end of the day. And that's the beauty of this game, because at the end of the day, only the real gonna float, man, for real. You either sink or you float. Only the real gonna float.